In this video, I'm going to take you through my process of setting up and styling an antique store and the grand reveal once it's completely done. We are at the Artefacts store, which is in Victoria Layout, Bangalore. As the name suggests, Artefacts is filled with beautiful vintage, antique and some new artifacts. While the store is filled with the most amazing and most beautiful things that you could imagine in the Indian vintage and antique space, it needed a slight reset for it to be retail ready. Things had piled up over a period of time and there was beautiful stuff everywhere. It just needed a little bit of organizing and showcasing so that each and every product gets its due and is laid out beautifully. While the owners of the space are perfectly capable of setting the space up to be retail ready, what happens is while you are constantly in the business, you sort of hit a roadblock in terms of creatively displaying your things, and that's where my help was needed. My goal for this space was to set it up in a way that has a great experience for somebody who's a customer, to give the retail space a flow, which means a customer takes a set path and moves seamlessly through the space to look at each and every product, and they are not hit with 1,000 things in one frame. The store has beautiful natural lighting coming through at the beginning of the store, at the entrances, and that had to be maximized. So things can look absolutely stunning in natural light, and I had to make sure that I set up the most beautiful part where the light was the biggest. The store is on 2 levels. There's a first floor and then there's a second floor. And on both levels, I have good natural light coming through in half portion of the store. The second floor has a very bright yellow wall, which I felt was extremely underutilized. And on both floors, I realized that I was greeted with big, bulky furniture right at the beginning of the entrance, and it narrowed down further into the space. So one thing I knew right away is that I want to reduce the bulk at the beginning and make it look open for the customers to feel more open and welcoming, and narrow it down at the end. So during our visit before the actual styling day, we took lots of videos. So these are clips that you see from those. We did detailed walkthrough of the space, mostly because I need to look at these videos and start planning what I want to do with the space. So on day 0, what I do is I watch these videos on loop to see over and over again, and figure what layout I want to do and what furniture I have at hand and how to go about starting the process. And every single time I watched this video, I saw something new. So I must have watched the old video for about 12 to 15 times before I actually went to the site to get the work started. On day 1, we went about moving the larger pieces, and the goal is to place the larger pieces where I want them to be or where I visualize them to be, and then have the smaller pieces support them and do the top of the surface styling. This took a little bit of time because the larger cupboards were filled with awesome treasures and we had to empty them out before we moved them to where the final space was. When working with hundreds of pieces in a space, only a certain amount of planning can be done, and then what you really need to do is think on your feet. There was a 4-poster single queen bed that was taking up a lot of space in the retail space, so we decided to dismantle it and store it after taking some good photos. Even though the day started really slow, we made quite a bit of progress on day 1. I had low furniture and seating at the entrance of the store so that it's open. I created a nice little niche in the window opening, which looks really sweet and somebody can imagine this setting in their home. And then as we went further into the store, the larger cupboards were pushed to the back of the store so that it almost wrapped itself around the store like a hug. This is the first frame I created. I always make sure there is one frame that I create almost immediately, which gives me the motivation to keep moving forward and complete the work at a fast pace. While for most people walking into the store, it looked like absolute chaos to see, for me, I could see it slowly coming together, a little piece at a time. The major chunk of this work was done over 2 days. So every single day, I spent about 9.5 to 10 hours on site. My idea was to have all the big pieces set in place in both levels on day one, and then go about refining and putting the smaller details and refining the display on the second day. As usual, nothing goes as planned. It took us more than a day and a half to put the larger pieces in place. Also, since this is a retail store and the cupboards have been in place for quite some time, when we moved them, we took the opportunity to have the floors cleaned thoroughly before we put something else there. Also, in a display space, we want the clutter to hide and only the beautiful things to be displayed or in sight for the customers. And sometimes when you're working with a large amount of things, that is a little difficult to achieve. But you can bring a method to the madness to make it look pleasant. Clutter can be made to look beautiful when it is used or set up intentionally rather than leaving it here and there. Like, for example, tucking a large number of frames in between the wall and a cupboard and making sure most of the frames are confined to that space and are not lying anywhere else. Idols of the same kind all clustered together to look like an intentional cluster. Day 2 was absolutely exhausting. I was able to set up the first floor almost to 95%, but the second floor was not what I intended it to be. Of course, the work spilled over more than what I had planned, but by the end of day 2, my brain juice also was running out. Even though styling looks like a very easy, fun thing to do, you are constantly, your brain is hyperactive, trying to picture how you want it to be and move things here and there in your mind before you physically move it. So it can get pretty exhaustive. So I knew that I needed to take a few days off and then come back with a fresh pair of eyes so that I can do full justice to the space. And that is what I did. The major chunk of the work was done in 2 consecutive days, and then I took about a week to come back with a fresh pair of eyes so that I can set up the rest of it. My initial plan of documenting this space was to create a video blog kind of documentary where I'm speaking live and recording thoughts. But once I got there and realized the magnitude of work, my focus was to get to the work and finish it in optimum time, because the longer I take, the more expensive it could get for the client, because they need helpers on hand and ensure that I'm supported in every way I'm there. So I ditched the idea of doing voiceovers right there or recording thoughts, because my focus was solely on getting the work done and driving it like a crazy woman on drugs to get things done. And I'm so glad I did that. I love what I achieved in almost 2 days and 4 hours. The store looks fresh and inviting, and all the beautiful things are getting their due. And now that we are getting closer to the grand reveal, I'm going to shut up and let you enjoy the visuals.